Right. Our next presenter is Charlie Sikes. Let's give it up for Charlie. Charlie is an environmental studies major graduating this quarter, so we're super excited about that. We're also excited that her next major task is applying for law school. Something super exciting. When I fill out this clipboard every year, I learn something new about the student. I knew a lot of things about Charlie and spent the better part of a year working together, but I did not know that Charlie is a professional chalk artist. Charlie will be competing in the Gig Harbor chalk competition this summer and hoping to continue her 11-year win streak. The title of Charlie's presentation is Defending North SeaTac Park, the key role of effective environmental health communication. I got that one right. Her host organization is South Seattle Climate Action Network, where her site supervisor was Naomi Maxwell. Her faculty advisor on campus was Christy Eby with UW Global Health and Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences. Let's give it up for Charlie.
Let's take a trip 15 miles down to North SeaTac Park. This beautiful urban green space stretches over 200 acres and is home to deep trails, 11 different athletic fields, a rare bog, and this adorable beaver. It'd be safe to say, if it sounds like a park and looks like a park, then it's probably a park, right? In this case, that's wrong, because this park is zoned as aviation commercial, which means that at any moment, it could be used for expansion of the airport. The SeaTac Airport, which it borders, had over 45 billion passengers just last year, and emissions from airport operations contribute significantly to air and noise pollution. The community that lives closest to the airport is primarily composed of low-income and minority populations who experience higher levels of air and noise pollution than the rest of King County. Research shows that urban trees are a great method of reducing this kind of pollution and can provide a wide variety of other health benefits that you can see here. This makes North SeaTac Park the first line of defense against the pollution of the SeaTac Airport. When I first started this internship, I had never heard of this park. I had never heard of the environmental health risks that are for this issue, and I had never heard anything about this issue. This shows a greater problem. Why is it that I, an environmental studies student, had never heard about this problem? So I sought to determine why this is the case. I worked with the South Seattle Climate Action Network to explore the question, what are the best practices to communicate environmental health issues in the SeaTac community? To answer this question, I worked with the Defenders of North SeaTac Park, who are a grassroots organization primarily composed to protect the park. To answer this question, I analyzed their communication methods. My duties for the internship were mainly managing their social media accounts, leading educational community meetings, and speaking at public comments. I then took the engagement that I got from that and then determined which was the most effective to compare to my research into effective environmental communication strategies. I then organized these results into 5 key recommendations for effective environmental communication. My first recommendation is to tailor your approach. Not everyone lives near the park, but some people do. Some people will just walk through it, and some will fly over it. Understanding who your audience is will allow you to better speak with the members of the public. Then you need to engage with the community directly and speak with members and leaders within the park. This will allow you to better resonate with the community. My next recommendation is to use clear and accessible language. You can do this by avoiding jargon, which will better let you communicate with the people and answer to their cultural and linguistic needs. Then you need to use a multimedia approach. I don't know about you guys, but I drew a bunch of beavers for my presentation. That's what gets me excited about environmental communication. So I recommend to use a multimedia approach. Finally, you need to take actionable steps to have the community take. You can do this by, the defenders do this by hosting forest rescues, encouraging people to sign their community forest consensus, and teach people how to reach out to their port commissioners. Without effective environmental communication, North SeaTac Park will be lost. And people won't know why this is an issue in the first place. And disproportionately impacted communities, like those living closest to the airport, will face the burden of our inaction. Effective environmental communication can increase people's awareness and teach them how to react to these issues in a timely manner. Which is especially important with extremely complex environmental issues. So I know that you're wondering what you can do right now to help the park. You can scan this QR code, which will take you to the Community Forest Consensus, which calls for the perpetual protection of the park. Thank you guys so much.
QR code works, so do it.
Yeah, it's a really amazing thing. So I would like to thank my faculty advisor, Christy Ebby, and my site supervisor, Noemi Maxwell, and my capstone partner, Aubrey Wisdom, and my friends, family, and the POE community.
Yeah. All right, we have some questions for Charlie.
Okay. A lot of different directions, even the back. The zoning of the park would actually give it the same kind of protections that other parks get. Without this protection, it can be changed, but it can also offer it up for grants. So things like restoration efforts can be, expedited and the park can be better protected. That was a great question. And the question I was asked was, because it's owned by the Port of Seattle, do they have a need to continue to keep this as a thing, as a forest? And yes, they do. It's a very complex issue, especially with zoning, because they actually sell the land out, which is why it's still aviation commercial and not a park, which is why this is kind of such a big issue in the first place, getting it to become a park. But with zoning laws, it's mainly the community that's fighting for this. There have been numerous recommendations by the port itself to keep this a park and even turn the rare bog, which is it's a sphagnum peat moss bog, and it's very good at carbon sequestration, specifically in that area. And there are recommendations to turn that into a wetland area. They're very hesitant to not have that form of income, I guess. Yeah.
One more question.
So you're talking about the incorporating language and stuff like that, and I see that you're with a little group right there. And I was just wondering that if there were already head people to sort of go and scout with that, if that's what's needed.
This little forest rescue that I went to, I did this one actually before I started the internship. And so this was the first time I got to meet my site supervisor in person and work with the community directly. And the people who show up are mainly people who live in the area because they actually care about the park. There's a mom who brought her kids, and she's a lawyer who's actually now working with my organization to help kind of rezone things. And so it's kind of a cool way that people can come and talk to you. And we got to answer a lot of their questions about specifically why is the park not zoned as an airport and things like that. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlie.